Folks, the regular season is right around the corner. And I don't know about Yinz guys, but I'm a Pirates fan and I actually have some more. Not a whole lot more, but some more optimism going into this season despite the fact that we yet again finished under 500. But this season feels like a little bit of a sense of we're going places and things are starting to head in the right direction. What is going on, everybody? I am Mac, back with another video. As always, do me a favor, like, comment, subscribe, follow on Instagram, link down in the box below. This is my 2024 season preview for the Pittsburgh Pirates, my expectations, what I think the lineup will be, how I think the bench can perform, what I think the rotation and the pitching staff will be, and overall just what I think that this team can do when they really put their mind to it. So obviously, yeah, 76 and 86 in 2023 looks like a pretty bad season on paper. But when you figure in the April that this team got off to, how we lost O'Neal Cruz 9 games into the season, and how they were still playing some good baseball even without him for an extended period of time. Then May hit and the Bucks had to face some quality teams, and that's when things just started to get out of control. And it was kind of like the team was just rallying behind O'Neal Cruz. I don't really get that sense this season going in because O'Neal Cruz is healthy. O'Neal Cruz has had a phenomenal spring so far. And this is a team that actually had a decent record, a winning one actually, in one-run games. So that tells me right there that this team definitely has comeback quality to them, and they definitely can put some runs on the board, and they have pop in their bat. So I feel like if the Bucks can finish off these games and they can maintain leads and they can jump on opponents early, I really think that this team can pick up about 5 to 6 more wins than they did last season. Because you take a look at the offseason they had, we did add some standout guys, Aroldis Chapman being the most notable one, definitely going to be back in the bullpen. Martin Perez from the Texas Rangers, he's coming on over to Pittsburgh. I expect him to be in the rotation. Rowdy Tellez coming on over from Milwaukee. We got him in winter, I believe. And then Marco Gonzalez. Those are just to name a few right there, but those are the biggest headliners that have been added to the Pittsburgh Pirates. And we did lose some guys along the way like Osvaldo Bido, Tupaquino Marcano back in San Diego, Miguel Andujar is gone, and Vince Velasquez was a free agent. So definitely some pieces have been added and definitely have been lost some well. But I do think that the additions are going to be for the better when you take a look at the lineup. And overall, I don't think anyone can argue that what this lineup is going to be is pretty accurate. I expect O'Neal Cruz to lead off. Like I said, definitely he's healthy. He's been pounding the ball all spring. We all know what he's capable of. The speed that he brings to shortstop. He's got a rocket launcher for an arm. And, I mean, this guy, for as big as he is, the guy's 6'7", and he plays shortstop. He's just a treat to watch. And, I think it's fair to expect him to see him for at least 150 games this year. He's been taking good care of his body, and I think O'Neal Cruz is definitely going to be the heartbeat of this offense. Brian Reynolds, I think, is going to be batting second this year for the most part. Second year of the extension for him. There was that whole should he stay, should he go drama BS that he had in the winter of 2022. And finally, Ben Cherington and the front office came to their senses, gave him that extension at the beginning of last season, and Sure, Reynolds may have had a little bit of a downturn to start last season, but I think he's slowly picking it up. And you put him in center field where I think he strives the most. He's gonna be just fine. Um, but yeah, definitely Brian Reynolds. We expect a lot of big things out of him. Andrew McCutchen, he's coming back as well, and I keep pounding the issue with him that he is definitely going to retire a Pirate. I literally have no doubt about it. I expect to see him a lot in the outfield as well, probably right field. Maybe you stick Brian Reynolds in left or right. Kutch you put in center. So I misspoke a little bit right there about Reynolds, but definitely Kutch is going to be in the outfield. If not, probably DHing like he did for a good portion of last year as well. Then you take a look at Jack Sawinski. Compared to other center fielders, he's a really good player. He can hit a lot of homers as well. I think he's good for 20 to 25 homers a season. You put him in center field, so like you have a little bit of a debate on who's going to be playing center field. But I think your definitive center fielder is probably going to be Jack Sawinski. Brian Reynolds is definitely capable of playing left and center, so I think that's going to be an interesting choice to see who the everyday center fielder is going to be for the Buccos this season. Henry Davis, I think you got to put him behind home plate because of Endy Rodriguez missing the whole season with his surgery and his injury that he sustained. But there's no question about it. You got to put Henry Davis behind home plate. So pretty much I'm looking at an outfield of Andrew McCutchen, Jack Sawinski, and Brian Reynolds. Henry Davis needs to get behind home plate. Platoon him a little bit with Jason DeLay, who's going to be coming off the bench a little bit as well. I'll get to the bench in just a little bit. As far as second base goes, I think Liover Peguero has won the second base battle. I think his power speed combo has trumped that over guys like Jared Triolo, who's a really good hitter. He swings the bat real well, and Nick Gonzalez has been up and down as well. But I think Liover Peguero is going to be your definitive second baseman for this team. He's got a really good swing as well. So definitely Liover Peguero, I think second base is his position to lose. Josh Palacios, again, another outfielder, utility guy. Maybe he can beat out Kutch for that job, but Josh Palacios did have a lot of potential as well. Then you take a look at your bench guys, and you probably, Ke'Bryan Hayes too. Oh my goodness, how did I forget about Ke'Bryan Hayes? Ke'Bryan Hayes, no doubt about it, third baseman. I'd love for him to be healthy because his injuries are a concern, but he's coming off his first Gold Glove, first of many, hopefully. And I just want to see him take that next step with his bat. I mean, a couple weeks ago, I sat down here and talked about how he was hitting grand slams and how he was hitting bombs in spring training. So, like, his swing has definitely gotten a lot better. But I'd still just want to see him take that next step because we all know what he brings to the table defensively. But now you get on over to first base. Probably Connor Joe would play first base, but I see him just more as a plug-and-play kind of guy off the bench. Then you got guys like Ji-Hwan Bae. I think his speed can make a difference as well. Jason DeLay, like I said, he's going to be platooning. Hopefully behind home plate with Henry Davis. Edward Olivares, I think he's a good guy with your bench as well. So overall, you take a look at this Pirates lineup. The top half of the lineup, I think, is the most important part of this lineup because it features the majority of your guys that are going to be scoring your runs, the majority of guys that are going to be getting on base, guys that can steal bags, guys that have good speed to them, guys that swing the bat well. So I feel like if they can get the top half of the lineup going, this offense is going to look way better than what it did last year, especially with the healthy O'Neal Cruz coming in, playing. Like I said, I think it's fair to expect 150 games from him if he can stay healthy. Because like I said, 9 games in the season, he was injured last season, and he's been taking care of his body, all off season. But the part that still concerns me, and it should still concern a lot of other Pirate fans, is the pitching. Now, the rotation kind of does lack that fifth guy, if you know what I mean, because you take a look at the rotation. I expect it to be Mitch Keller, Martin Perez, Marco Gonzalez, and, in my opinion, Luis Ortiz. But who really is going to be that fifth guy? If you ask me, it might be Quinn Priester. It might be Johan Oviedo. But we really need that fifth starter. And that's where the holes start to come in with this team and why people are like, well, this team is only going to be good for, 72 wins. This is not a playoff team. This is a team that's going to lose 90 or so games again. The rotation is, like I said, is where the most holes come in with this team. The bullpen looks great. David Bednar is your closer. Aroldis Chapman's definitely your back end guy. Rowanzi Contreras, I think, has done a lot better in the bullpen than he has. He's a failed starter, and then of course you got Colin Holderman as well. So I think the bullpen is definitely the strength of this team. But the rotation definitely needs that fifth guy, and I think that is definite. I think that is either going to make or break your season right there if you're a Pirate fan. You got to fix up that rotation. You got to do something about it. You got to find a fifth guy. But in conclusion, you take a look at important guys that are still down in your farm. Guys like Tamar Johnson, is he going to come up and, get playing time? And even like with Paul Skeens, like I just talked about the rotation, I think, I know for a fact once Paul Skeens gets called up, it's most likely not going to be this year, okay? I expect, the Pirates have already said that Paul Skeens is going to stay in the farm to start the season. So I don't expect Paul Skeens to see the rotation this year. If he does, it's probably going to be at the last week of the season, but I think it's fair to expect him to get called up in 2025. But like I said, once Paul Skeens gets called up, I think a lot of the question marks with the rotation are going to go away. But yeah, in conclusion, this team definitely does have a lot of potential to them. The top of the lineup, as I said, is definitely the strength of this team right here. And I feel like that, if they play their cards right, they get on base. They don't try to do too much. They keep on stealing backs. They have the aggressive base running. They find ways to get on base. They keep knocking it through. I think it can kind of offset the bad pitching a little bit. It's not going to make the pitching seem completely irrelevant, but I do think it can offset the shortcomings that the pitching has because now they're not in the mindset of, well, we got to rally around O'Neal Cruz. Well, we got to, make sure that everybody's fully healthy. We can't, we can't keep blundering opportunities because this guy hasn't stepped up. This is now the season to where your rebuild is pretty much done. Where the players that are going to stay here long term with the Pittsburgh Pirates are forming that nucleus to what the future of this franchise is going to be in the long term. Okay? You don't got to worry about the what ifs anymore. You know what you have in a lot of these players. You know what you have as far as position players goes. And this is why I'm going to get on Derek Shelton, probably the most I've ever gotten on him this year alone. My old-time subscribers, you know how I feel about Derek Shelton. I can't stand the frickin' guy. I don't think he's the manager of this team. I want a new manager. But there is literally no excuse if Shelton is going to stay here to possibly mess this up. You know what you have in these guys. You know who's down in the farm. You know which players belong where. And you especially know what your pitching staff is capable of doing. If this team finishes under 500 again, I don't care what the record is. If this team finishes under 500, it's a failure of a season. Okay? This team improved by 14 games from 2022. Yes, I know they still finished under 500. But to win 14 more games than you did the previous season, that is a good spring forward. And you got to make this season count. Because I think it's, personally, I think it's lame to sit down here and say that the only reason that we finished under 500 is because O'Neal Cruz was injured for practically the entire season. Okay, there are a lot of other contributing factors as to why we finished under 500 again. But now, like I said, you have him. And you know what you have in a lot of your depth as well. Do not mess this season up. Okay? Plain and simple. This is a young team. This is a team that's excited to get out there and play. This is a team that wants to form an identity. And I do think it's not impossible for this team to possibly make a playoff push. Because with how the playoffs are now with the MLB, it doesn't matter what you're seated at. It doesn't matter where you are in the standings. I mean, look at the World Series. It was a wild card World Series between Arizona and Texas. Did anyone even think those two would even be remotely close to playoff teams last year? All you have to do is get in. And you can do anything in the playoffs. It's not like the NFL. It's not like the NBA, where you know what team is going to be in the Super Bowl or what team is going to be in the NBA Finals. All you have to do in the MLB is just make the playoffs, and you can make a serious run. And I expect this Pirates team to go out there, compete, play their hearts off, and show everybody that, hey, these guys are not to be taken lightly. I have a little bit more found optimism with this team, and I think they're going to be a fun team to watch. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Let's go Buccos, man. That said, my record prediction for this team, I think it's fair to expect 81 wins for this team. Maybe 83 if they play their heart. 81 to 85 wins, I think, is a fair expectation for this team if all goes well. Everything falls into place. 81 to 85 wins is my prediction for this team. But let me know what you think down in the comments below about the Pirates. This is Mac checking on out for the day. Have a good one, everybody.